requirement that I have when it comes to barriers.
So, just for the record now, who determined to paint the wall with military assets?
DHS and CBP asked for our assistance to do that, asked DOD for that assistance. We're using engineers to do that, the same engineers that put the concertina wire on top.
So, Chief, you asked for the military to paint the wall?
So we have asked for that support, I believe, in one of the RFAs, RFA 7, I believe.
Well, can you provide the committee with whatever direction that request to paint the wall by the military went to?
Certainly.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes for 5 minutes the gentlewoman from Arizona, Ms. Lesko.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm going to start by reading an article that was published 6 days ago in the Arizona Republic. The body of a 7-year-old girl was found Wednesday about 17 miles west of Lukeville in a remote desert area, U.S. Customs and Border Protection said. Officials believe the child was from India trying to cross from Mexico into the United States with a group from that country, according to the agency. Border Patrol agents believe human smugglers dropped the group near the Mexican border, where they were told to cross the terrain into Arizona alone, the agency said. Agents searched for the missing people north of the border in remote terrain. They eventually found the little girl's body after a few hours. The remote area where she was found is a rugged desert wilderness with few roads and resources. The area had a high temperature around 108 degrees Wednesday. After agents found the girl's body, they continued to search for the other 2 people who had been traveling with her, the release said. The National Guard and U.S. Customs and Border Protection sent out aircraft and helicopters to search the area. And I'm not going to read the rest of it because I only have 3 minutes and 40 seconds left. But the point of reading this is that we have a crisis at the border. We have had a crisis at the border. I live in Arizona. I've been to the border. And so it wasn't so long ago that Speaker Pelosi and Senator Schumer said, this is a manufactured crisis. So I am very happy to hear today from both the chairman and the committee chairman that they are actually acknowledging that there is a crisis now. And so I really hope that we will work together, as I've said before, to try to change some of these policies, because as you can tell from this story, the smugglers could give a darn about these migrants. The smugglers are making money off these people. So instead of blaming President Trump, I wish we would put the blame where it belongs, with these smugglers, with the cartels, with the people that are abusing these migrants, and also with us, quite frankly, because we are not changing our policies. Last year, we had 2 pieces of legislation that I know of where we could have changed our policies to help stop this flow of the smugglers exploiting migrants, but not one of my Democratic colleagues voted yes. Now, fortunately, we have in the Senate some type of potential agreement to fund the humanitarian crisis over there, at least, which has been rejected, I think, 17 times by my Democrat colleagues in the House. So I want to work with you. I'm not trying to be disparaging, but I do have a question for you, Chief Provost. How would the funding for the humanitarian crisis, the $4.6 billion that is being proposed, help you to solve the crisis at the border?
Thank you, ma'am. Well, in numerous ways. You just mentioned it when you talked about the tragedies that we're seeing out there. The rescues, we've already rescued over 3,300 people crossing the border. As you identified, the temperatures are rising. This is a dangerous time of year. That funding would help in relation to all of the humanitarian expenses that are coming out of my operating budget right now, help support those medical contracts, transportation, help support when it comes to air support and being able to get out into those remote areas, all of the consumables of taking care of these folks when they are coming into our custody and our care. Those are expenses that are not in my baseline budget. They are just not there because of this crisis coming up here over the last year. And it would support all of those efforts, the care of the individuals in our custody when it comes to the humanitarian crisis, and then dealing with just what we see on a day-to-day basis on the border.
Thank you very much. And with the short time I have left, General McGuire, can you provide some examples of the positive impact the National Guard has had working with CBP on the border?
Well, ma'am, you mentioned the unfortunate incident we had just a couple weeks ago. Fortunately, the aviation and rotary wing support that we have had has led to no less than one humanitarian save of a life in the desert every time we've done this, and this is our fourth iteration of this. We have a great relationship with the JTF West Command and the Tucson and Yuma sector chiefs because of the nature of us only getting involved when there's an emergent condition to answer the call. We have picked up a number of their 911 calls and been able to be in support of them. The other thing I would say that's been hugely successful is it's great for our soldiers and airmen because they get the opportunity to contribute to their local communities. We just redeployed 400 soldiers from Afghanistan a month ago. All of them had been there for 10 months, so 400 of them redeployed, 58 of them asked immediately to turn around and try to fill the 200 soldier and airman gap we have between what we presently have on the border and willing to go forward. They're motivated to help. 15% of our guardsmen serve in their civilian capacity in police and law enforcement. It's the #1 sector for our National Guard formations. So they have a strong kinship with the Border Protections and Customs, OFO, and all the groups that they work with along the border. So it's been a great opportunity for all of them.
And thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for all the men and women that work in CBP, Department of Defense, the National Guard. You guys are heroes. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes for 5 minutes the gentlewoman from New Mexico, Ms. Torres Small.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Provost, for your long-tenured career and service in the Border Patrol. Thank you as well, Mr. Salesas, as well as Major General McGuire, for your service to our country. I have the honor of representing New Mexico's 2nd Congressional District. I'm the only member of the Homeland Security Committee that represents a district directly on the U.S. Mexico border, and I serve on both House Armed Services as well as Homeland Security. So this is an important issue. And Chief, I also just want to thank your staff. Dan has been great to work with, and thank you for that. So back to this issue, when DOD redirected $1 billion from military personnel to build 57 miles of wall, a lot of it is in some rural parts of my district. And that's why the analysis of why that's going to make impact really matters to me. And part of that needs to be, with everything that's going on in the border, part of that is about drug interdiction sector by sector. And I know that the committee has actually asked for that information, the sector-by-sector analysis, and hasn't received it. So Chief, would you commit to providing that sector-by-sector drug interdiction information?
I will go back to the department and see whether or not, I know we provide national. I am not sure when it comes to specific sector by sector, but I can tell you in the Border Security Improvement Plan that is part of the analysis that we do, and we will ensure that you get that plan.
Well, thank you. And the most up-to-date information is very helpful. We have to make sure we're adapting to changing circumstances. I really appreciate that your office has provided the El Paso sector information, drug interdiction information, to my office recently. So I know it is possible to do. So if you can commit to it, I deeply appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Moving on, I deeply also appreciate Border Patrol's investment in these potential support positions to do some of the work that is currently taking Border Patrol agents and custom officers off of the line and from the ports of entry when it comes to, for example, hospital watch or transportation. And we're excited to support that effort. And so I wanted to get some more information from you, specifically on the qualifications that you see will be necessary for that position.
Certainly. We're in the process, as you well know, of developing that position and ensuring that, as well as the training that will go with that new position that we have created. It is in the final phases of determining everything that will go into it, so I do